I'm not here to actually criticize anybody. When I submitted this project proposal, initially, you know, it's like wherever I looked, anywhere I researched, you know, of course, everybody is pointing fingers, and it was really easy. You know, everybody is like blaming the United States and the administration, the Bush administration, and okay. I think part of the blame lies on the Bush administration for not providing sufficient numbers of troops to protect these sites. And I do believe that a lot of the blame falls on the Department of Defense because they were warned ahead of time of these sites. If you think about it, about 65% of Iraq is World Cultural Sites. They are declared by the UNESCO as World Cultural Sites. And and they knew where they are. They had accurate maps. They were warned ahead of time what's going to happen. And you know, when Donald Rumsfeld said that nobody anticipated this disaster, I don't think it's true. I mean, I believe they were sufficiently warned about what's going to happen. You know, maybe they didn't think it's going to be looted, perhaps. You know, they didn't bomb it directly. They didn't, you know, destroy it. You know, the army didn't destroy it themselves. But what I touched upon in my paper was the Hague Convention of 1954 and the protocol that followed of 1999. See, those two protocols provided the ground for, or the framework for occupying powers and how should they deal with the cultural heritage of occupied territory. The Hague Convention states that in the event of conflict, and by the way, I just wanted to mention that the United States observe all these protocols and they are parties to them, that the occupying powers are required to protect the antiquities and the cultural heritage of the occupied territories during armed conflict, to prevent the exportation of cultural property from the territory. That's Article 1. Furthermore, the amended 1999 protocol on the same subject, which the United States is a party to as well, provides enhanced protection of cultural property under the criteria in which to be granted enhanced protection. That's Article 10 of the same protocol. The article states that that is the cultural heritage of the greatest importance to humanity, which that obviously was. It is protected by domestic measures that recognize its cultural and historical value and ensure the highest level of protection, which that was actually in place at that time. And it's not going to be used for military purposes or to shield military sites. Article 5 of the Hague Convention states that in the case of occupation, any high contracting party in occupation of the whole or part of the territory of another high contracting party shall, as far as possible, support the competent national authorities of the occupied country in safeguarding and preserving its cultural property. Should it prove necessary to take measures to preserve cultural property situated in occupied territory and damaged by military operations, and should be competent national authorities be unable to take such measures, occupying power shall, as far as possible, and in close cooperation with such authorities, take the most necessary measures of preservation. See, when you look at the above articles that I just mentioned, they were put in place after World War II because of all the damage that happened to Europe from World War II. And all what took place and the looting and the destruction of the cultural sites in Europe that took place, these articles came to be, and these protocols came to be. And that's what I focused on and what I touched upon in my project. That was the main focus. It's like why this disaster wasn't prevented when it's obvious. You know, it's the sole responsibility of the occupier to protect these national cultural heritage places. You know, that's the only criticism. I don't think that any of the soldiers participated in the looting. I don't think they did that on purpose. Of course, you know, you can't blame the soldiers. They're getting their orders from, you know, people above them. But why weren't there, when they were preparing for the invasion, why it wasn't put to place enough troops to protect these national treasures? And then, not only this, as the looting went on for 3 days, and everybody was begging them, and the news broke out of the looting, and the whole community realized that, and it was in the news all over the world. Why they still didn't send any troops to protect the museum? That was the biggest mistake I think the Bush administration made at that time. I mean, this was a loss like no other to Iraq. You know, loss of life is, you know, sorrowed, and we all don't want that to happen, but when it comes to history, this history belongs to the world, belongs to all mankind. And that was, you know, for me personally, or the way I think about it, it is the world history that was lost at that period, which would have been so easily been prevented. I mean, we've sent enough troops to protect the oil ministry and the oil wells. I understand they are of utmost value to whatever, you know, to build the country, to whatever you can say. I don't want to go into politics right now. But why couldn't we provide sufficient troops to protect those sites when we know what kind of treasures they hold? This was the part that moved me a lot. And that's exactly why I did this project, because I wanted to bring attention that it was overshadowed by the war itself and the mess that's Iraq in until this day. And what I'm doing here is actually, I'm filming the event, the whole event. I'm going to have it to be uploaded to a site and to YouTube, and, you know, of course, after it's edited and stuff. And then I'm going to start a dialogue. I'm going to start a blog and start a dialogue between the American people and the Iraqi people. See, for the Iraqi people that lives in Iraq, you have to understand that they think that the American government is responsible for all their suffering, you know, for everything. Beyond that, the world community look at the United States government as the sole responsible for this disaster specific. You know, when we talk about disaster in this magnitude, there has to be somebody responsible for it. You know, the looters were Iraqis. They were like gang members, and they were like organized crime members, and very knowledgeable in the art history and knowledgeable in that art, and they knew what they were doing. And, you know, you can blame private collectors, you can blame museum curators, you can blame anybody. But this is not the point.